Welcome to the show, Dr. Rickey Vincent. You are an author, teacher, radio programmer, and broadcaster. Author of Funk, the Music, the People, and the Rhythm of the One, the first comprehensive discussion of the black street music and culture of the 1970s. You're also author of Party Music, the inside story of the Black Panthers band and how Black Power transformed soul music. Some powerful stuff there. There's plenty to talk about with you, Rickey, and thank you so much for joining us on the show. And please do tell us more.
Came from Berkeley High School, but also went to UC Berkeley, so I'm sort of grounded in the East Bay out here. Came up in the music scene where everybody I knew but me was in a band. And so I sort of figured out, the inside story. My brother was in bands, and, from the outside in, you love what they do. From the inside out, it's like, man, there's some drama going on. And so, you start to put the pieces together. You learn the history of how bands have gone, and musicians have, gone over the years. It's like, ain't nothing changed. The music is different, it's good, but the business side is rough and rugged. And so I just started to put all those pieces together. And a lot of us kind of, studied how the music and the movements had some kind of interplay, how they sort of went back and forth together. And so in hunting that down for myself, I got into some questions that I could explore and put down. And so I write about some of it, and sometimes you just got to jam the jam. And so I'm on the radio, playing the music, playing the messages, celebrating these artists that have got through all the mess to give us something beautiful.
Yeah, and you just put your print on funk. Tell us about that.
I don't have to tell you much about it, but I will say this. A lot of what I wrote down about funk was what I heard from other musicians, other people calling in the radio station when I would say, well, so-and-so, Lakeside was kind of the first to do this and that. And people would call and say, yeah, but then something else from the Daz Band. Oh, but something else from Kool and the Gang. Oh, but this. And so I didn't just sit around and read a book. There weren't any books on this, but I'm a crate digger. And so a lot of us are closet music archaeologists anyway. So we dig into a record, go through the liner notes, and we look at who wrote what, where did they come from? But this is before you could go to the websites and piece it all together. And so it was part of the journey to explore where this music came from and how we got to the jam that it was back in the day. And so that in itself was a joyful experience. And then I learned about it, put it together, sort of hung out with other artists that were playing a lot of those songs that I was digging into, and sort of a model, a design, a paradigm came out. I said, the funk is something that, puts all these ingredients together. And you turn around and look, I thought it was normal, but these bands, God has been through it. These bands, 7, 8, 9, 10 members, because they got a big horn section. Wow. It's the whole jazz thing. They got 3 or 4 or 5 vocalists. Why? Because the whole gospel soul thing. A bunch of them had 2 or 3 guitarists. Why? Because the whole rock rhythm, rock and roll thing. And somehow people in the 70s got permission to break all those boundaries down and mix it all together. And it was a crazy combination of, diabolical music, kind of mastery, arrangements and stuff like that, and freestyle vibing. And it was this sort of mix of the hard and the soft, the sweet and the sour. And that's right there at that crossroads. That's where the funk is.
Yeah, it is, man. And I got into a debate with the mayor of ex-mayor of Dayton, Ohio, and she tried to tell me that Dayton, Ohio was the funk capital of the world. Oh, you shouldn't have said that to me. Okay? I say, were any of those bands there before Sly and the Family Stone? It got quiet.
Mm-mm.
It got quiet after that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so, Sly was the first funk band to integrate nationalities together in the
Mm.
funk, and
He,
that hadn't been done before. And the beautiful thing is, it worked. Even though Sly taught Jerry and Greg how to play those parts right, you know, it worked, and it's like often imitated, never duplicated. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
often imitated, and it's funny because I had those same conversations with the Dayton Funk uh, folks, and I got nothing but love for them because I know every one of them that I asked, where'd you get your funk from? What got you started? What was you studying? When was you? Well, I was doing church music and I heard Sly and the Family Stone. Well, I was in this jazz band and I heard Sly and the Family Stone. Well, I was doing this and then with Sly and the Jimmy and I got hungry, and so everybody around the country at that time their nose was open and they heard Sly and that moved them to the next level. So I'm okay with folks wanting to talk about, who's the center of the funk world and things like that. Those are fun conversations, really. Those are good questions to have.
Yeah,
But I know that when it all washes out, all roads, they lead back to Sly and the Godfather of Soul, James Brown, and that's it. Um, but everybody contributed, and nobody felt left out. That was what was so good about the music. And then that circles back to Sly Stone because his music was so inclusive. Yes, he integrated everything into the music. He integrated the
that's right.
positivity, the traditions, the technology, the industry, everything. And he gave permission for everyone else to experiment and not fall off the tracks, but experiment and still be in the pocket. So he all praises to what the master Sylvester Stewart did for all of us.
I love because I've been doing social conscious music since 1984. But
Mhm.
when I decided that's all I'm going to do, uh, and when I helped Sly come back out with Vet, right? When I was rehearsing the lyrics, I said, "Man, this dude is talking about positive music, social conscious music, right? It wasn't baby this and baby that. You know what I mean? It's like I want to take you higher.
Yeah.
I'm everyday people, right? It was like conversations. You know what I mean? That's the beautiful thing about that whole experience of 207 it took me 7 years to do that, to get him to come out like that with Vet. And now we got a book out about it. And it's really, really wonderful.
A lot of people talk about their music today, and there's a lot of DJs sort of run the show, and they talk about the music having beats per minute. And
Right.
that's fine. Do what you got to do. Mix it over here, mix it over there. But and I know that Sly's music had concepts per minute, had ideas per minute,
Mm.
and it was so densely packed with
Mm.
messages on top of messages, and then musical statements to support those messages. Your brain is like you can't even decode it all because you're moving too much anyway. So it gets you with your higher mind and your physical and everything. And when it's doing that, there's nothing like the funk.
Mm.
Ain't nothing like the funk. I remember I went to go see James Brown when I was 10 years old, but later on in life, he was on Larry King. And
Okay.
Larry King said, "Well, what makes your music so different?" He said, "Well, everybody else is doing it on the two and four, so I did mine on the one and the three."
Right.
right?
That's right.
You got to be different. You got to be different to get that sound. Tom?
Yeah. Well, sticking with the funk and why not? You've been on the KPFA radio doing the history of funk on a Friday night since the early '90s, and a certain Mr. Jett mentioned to me just before we came on the show actually about your radio show. That's obviously some staying power to be still going since the early '90s. Is that just because do you kind of explore various different aspects of it each week, or how? What do you think is the mainstay for the reason that is still such a popular show that they have on the station with you?
Well, you see, when you first encounter the funk, you kind of grab hold of whatever approach, whatever angle, whatever your entry path is. Okay. And if it's James, he's coming out of rhythm and blues, or maybe he was polished and tight when you first saw him. And that meant a lot to a lot of people. A little more psychedelic, that big Larry Graham bass line. There's a different kind of bounce, different kind of bump. You feel different things. And then you start to, what Skyler was just saying, you start to explore the messaging, what is being said. Sometimes you enter the funk, through the language, right? A lot of hip hoppers, they just hear those lyrics and don't necessarily know how much went into the music to back those lyrics. But anyway, they get into it and they build on it. And there's so many ways in. And then once you're in, there's so many places to go. And if you're a crate digger, you know that everybody that is in that music era, if it's Gil Scott-Heron, he's got a lot of messages, but when it comes to putting on the one, he drops Angel Dust, and he drops it hard, right? And all these people that, Stanley Clarke, I love his fusion, but when it's time to end his show, he drops in the thank you for letting me be myself, because that's the bass line that all the bass players know changed the game for them. So there's all these conversations. Funk was really the music that emerged when all things could be finally said. Okay, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. You could speak across the racial divide in ways that one had never been able to. Okay, and remain popular. And so all of a sudden, here's this whole new language, this whole new way of truth telling that you could hold on to the vibe. So when it comes to making a theme or making a message mix, and if you're a crate digger, that the only problem with being a DJ nowadays, where I watched it happen, a lot of DJs are so fixated now on mixing the beat, they don't always know that there's mixing the message, mixing the ideas as well. And so doing radio, you get to lay out the entire song. And that's one little thing about how hip hop and funk kind of differ, because a lot of fans of funk, they want to hear the whole song. They want to hear Take It to the Bridge. Right. And they don't want to go to another song during the bridge. They want the same song with that bridge, because we know that all the pieces go into that and it comes out. So, that's a subtle thing, but there's just so many conversations that that can be made with the music and with an instrumental in the mix of the music. So I think this week, I was still going to do a third Sly Stone and tribute to his influence on jazz, and I'll come back to that. But this week is the nuclear bomb stuff, thanks to the president. He's not mine. But anyway, I was like, well, do I have music on that? Well, I got plenty of music on that. And even Rick James did a song about nuclear bombs. I was like, called Silly Little Man. And I guess he was talking about Ronald Reagan, but I guess that applies to who we're dealing with
today.
Right now.
Yeah.
So, so those all these artists and everybody kind of comes up with an epiphany or a moment where they want to say, I got to say this. And if you study artists, doesn't matter what the form is, you can kind of tell when someone is punching the clock and doing something, and someone is doing it because they had to get it off their chest. They had to say this. People say that about Tupac all the time. Well, he didn't just make up a song to make a song. He had to do this, right? So there's a lot of artists that do that. And then when a funk band can collectively present that, then you feel like you're in the, sort of the righteous tribe you always wanted to.
What was that dude? War? What is it good for?
Mm-hmm.
Was that Edwin Starr? Who was that?
Edwin Starr. And he was hired by Motown. He was always too raw for the Motown sound, but he stayed on the label for a while. And the Temptations did a version of that was a little bit on the smoother side. And around that time, Norman Whitfield and the folks that are open-minded at the label, it's like, let's just crank this bad boy up. And so a year later, they put the War, What Is It Good For, out with the Edwin Starr, and for a moment, that was the message that needed to be heard, and put him in the mix, because it had to happen.
It needed to happen. Who was one of your favorite social conscious music artists?
Well, when I came up, there was always a Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions album in the house. That was, and I gravitated. I didn't know at the time that would be recognized as one of the top 10 albums of all time. I was just like, hey, this album, interesting little African artwork, and Higher Ground. Living for the City. Wait a minute. And at that time, I was just looking for the funk. All I wanted was the beat, but it had the Higher Ground on there, and it had Living for the City on there, and then all these kind of trippy mid-range things, Too High, and He's Mr. Know-It-All, and things like that. And I was like, whoa. But I understood that Stevie understood the most important messages, you got to put the most important hump on there. And so the hardest funk that Stevie had, those were his message songs. Those were his delivering songs. This is the message I got to say here. Boom. Don't even get off me. Boom. So I understood early that Stevie was able to do things that in general, what the bands I was listening to were doing. I got into Earth, Wind and Fire around that time. Kool and the Gang was really my first musical heroes when they did Wild and Peaceful. And they had the street beats that I loved, the funky stuff, and then the jungle boogie, and then the Hollywood swinging. And then I got mad at them because they did all these weird, trippy jazz arrangements on the other tracks on the album. And I'm 12 going, why can't you just give me 9 straight funk bumpers? But then they made me have to grow. I had to, and that's what a lot of jazz artists have always done. And it's like, you got to reach my level here. And Kool and the Gang was doing that even while they was hitting me with those street beats and things. And I said, man, there's something more. They make you pursue something more while they give you what you want. That was some incredible stuff. And then there was the bands that were doing that, like Earth, Wind and Fire, and Rufus and Shaka Khan, and the Average White Band, and Ohio Players, and Mandrill, and War was saying a lot of things, and grooving hard, extra hard. And this is really before, I got slapped upside the head by the P-Funk. And at the time, this is crazy. Skyler probably knows this, but by 1974, Sly the perception was he was completely fading out. He had his peak and was on the downside. And it didn't quite feel that way when you listen to Small Talk, when you listen to Wishful Thinking and Loose Booty and things like that. There was like so much creativity going on in that stuff. But the radio, that was when I first started to realize there's some politicking going on here, because they're not trying to understand. how this man has been consistent with what he was doing. So I was studying everything Sly was doing. I was studying these big bands, but I had to work my way back to the spectacular period of Sly. Work my way back to a lot of us had to dig to find those James Brown tracks because they, for a minute, they didn't get the distribution.
Hmm.
I was just realizing that a lot of the hip hop samples of James Brown are built around the reissues of James Brown on vinyl in the 1980s. There's a box set, and there are these compilations that are LP compilations, CD compilations, and folks were getting sort of hand delivered. Here's your dish of your funk grooves and beats and things you could work with. And the original crate diggers, I mean, they had to really dig and go to the record stores and go to the swap meets and the Goodwill stores and eventually people started going to what is it called, the estate sale, when somebody passes on and they trying to unload a collection and people are hunting. So you have to you sort of work your way to it. But I kind of stepped in an arena when all this music had a message and a groove. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was the norm. And it's not anymore, but for some artists it's still something to aspire to.
Yeah.
Listen, brother, I love you, man. It's great. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show, man.
Thanks.
We've been knowing each other for years, and man, I live over here now, and then all my fans over on this side of the world get to see who you are. And Tom's gonna get all your information so we can spread the love. All right.
We gotta spread the love, and you need to let them know that you are played more than any other artist on the radio in my show because the opening part, you the singer on that thing.
The opening theme tune. That's it.
So we hear you every Friday night at 10 o'clock. You and Paris and Al Eaton's production, and man. So I want to thank you for that.
Bless you, brother. My cousin Al, man, he one day I was over his house in the studio, and he said, "Hey, man, I got to do a song for my dear friend, man, Rickey Vincent, man. He got records in his trunk." So that's why we put that lyric in there. and it was so wonderful. I said, "Okay, let's go." So I went in there and wrote that little part, man. I said, "What's the name of the show?" He said, "History of Funk." That's exactly what I wrote. Yeah. and it was way cool, man. And I thank you for having it on the show every week, man. It's like so cool. It's funky too, and hopefully my cousin gets better and stuff, But Tom's gonna get all your info, man. So we gonna spread the love, okay?
I just want just really want if I can get from you how people can go off and can I go off and listen to the show? Is it online? Is it somewhere I can go off and listen to previous recordings or live recordings?
It's called The History of Funk with Rickey Vincent, and it's on KPFA Radio, KPFA, KPFA.org. It's a non-commercial station, and there's you can go to listen live or archives. It's a menu right in the top corner, nice. And you go to Friday night, and there's the last 2 weeks of the History of Funk, and the playlist going back. But to be on commercial radio and play music it's real complicated how to have the rights to that, and so our arrangement is music shows can post for 2 weeks, so you can pick out what we've done, and then. The playlist will be there for months, if not years, but the music shows are up for 2 weeks, and that's better than nothing. It's better than before when we had no internet. We were just on the road, and you got what you got.
We'll put those links. We'll put those links in the bottom of this video here as well for you, Rickey, so people can go off and check out your station and go and listen in.
Station is
more listeners.
RickeyVincent.com, and talks about the writing and the other stuff that I do.
I feel privileged. I feel privileged because Johnny Carson had his theme song, and you could be in the bathroom. Hey man, Johnny Carson about to come on. Right. So I feel privileged because when History of Funk come on, Rickey Vincent about to come on.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
My brother, stay blessed, man.
Take care.
Namaste.
Namaste, Rickey.
Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all get together, music can save the world. Yeah. Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all come together, music can save the world. There's an urgency facing our humanity.
Thank you so much for watching. To stay up to date, please click subscribe and hit the bell. You can also join our group on Facebook and find us on LinkedIn and Instagram.